I wonder if you remember the first time that your mind was blown by an oracle reading or a divination reading that you had that was clearly speaking very directly to you. I certainly remember that the first time that I felt this as a very personal answer to my exact question was when I did my first reading with the I Ching Oracle. Now, we're talking about 20 years ago now, and I don't remember the question that I asked, and I don't remember the answer that I got, but I do remember that it was a very, very specific answer to the exact question that I'd asked. And it wasn't an answer that could have been interpreted in a different way if I'd asked a different question. No, this was an answer that was tailored specifically to my question, and it was exactly what I needed to hear at the time. Now, I remember going, wow, that is quite a coincidence. I wonder if my wife would experience the same thing. And passing the book on to my wife, she did the same, and her answer blew her mind. And then I passed the book on to my mother and taught her how to do the basic 3-coin reading technique that I'd like to teach you today. She threw the coins 6 times, did the reading, and she was also blown away by the accuracy of the reading. And so were we all, watching her do it and listening to the answer that she came up with. Now, I use the I Ching in very specific situations. I use the I Ching when I want to know more about a situation. I tend to use the tarot when I want a general reading. I want to know what in my life I'm missing, where I'm heading to unless I change something, and what I need to change specifically to make things better for myself. But when I've got a specific question, for example, I might have a choice of 2 situations and I have to go towards one or the other. Do I move? Do I stay? Is this business venture a good idea? Is that business venture a better idea? The I Ching is very, very good at giving you insight into hypothetical situations, telling you what kind of changes will lead to those and telling you what kind of changes those in turn will lead to. The I Ching, after all, does mean the Book of Changes. And with Benebell's new book, I Ching, the Oracle, a practical guide to the Book of Changes coming out, I thought it might be worth giving you a quick introduction to the 3-coin technique so that you can use this oracle as soon as you receive the book. Or if you've got an I Ching book and you've never really known how to use it, this very simple tutorial will give you everything that you need. First of all, you're going to need to choose your question very carefully. You have to remember that the future is not set. The I Ching is not about telling you the future. And neither is the tarot or any other form of divination for that matter. The future is not written in stone, but we can get an idea of where we are headed to given our current momentum. And if we have information about the rest of the world's momentum, we have a good idea of what kind of future to expect. And if we change our behavior in this way, what kind of future to expect. And if we change our behavior in that way, what other kind of future to expect. So the I Ching is very good at giving you insight into the kinds of situations that your current momentum is taking you towards. And it's very good at giving you advice and driving you into the kind of situation that you're looking for. What it's not there to do is to tell you this is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. It's more like taking advice from a strategic war general who has all the information. You can ask him, hey, would this kind of job be a good idea for me? And then he will say, yes, it would be a perfect idea for you, but I know that the person who's responsible for recruiting for that job doesn't like the kind of things that you think, doesn't like the kind of things that you represent, doesn't like the kinds of things that you have done in the past. That's all real, tangible information. It's not something that's in the future. It's not saying you can't get this job because it's not in the cards for you. It's not in your future. Your future doesn't allow you to have this job. It's just saying the current situations are that it's unlikely that you're going to get this job. And it's based on present, current facts. Because the only moment that is in fact crystallized is the present moment. The more we head towards the future, the more chaos there is. The more we head towards the past, the more chaos there is. And I know that we think of the past as this crystallized thing that is done and dusted. But actually, I've talked about this in previous videos. If you think about what you had for dinner 2 weeks ago, you have no idea. And so the possibilities of what you had to eat 2 weeks ago suddenly become multiple, since reality is crystallized by observation and by conscious interaction with reality. So step 1 is to formulate a question in the way you would ask it to a general who has all the information, all the external information, but also all the internal information, the way people think, people's past experiences, and the way those past experiences make them act, and all these little factors that kind of interact amongst themselves. That's the kind of question that you're going to ask. You can't ask, will I get this job? The answer is going to be, what do I know? I am not a fortune teller. But you can ask, is there anything that I can do to improve my chances of getting this job? Is there anything currently getting in the way of my getting this job? Is this job the right job for me? Would it even be a good idea for me to apply for this job? But it's a good idea to remember that the general does in fact have all the details, all the information, and might know that telling you that yes, applying for this job is the right move is what you need to hear to get yourself to somewhere else altogether, but somewhere else that you would never have got to if you hadn't applied to that one job. So, okay, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what kinds of questions to ask. Never ask about what's going to happen, but rather ask what factors do I need to know to make the things that I want to happen, happen. All right, the second thing that you're going to want to do is to gather your materials. You're going to need 3 coins. They don't have to be all of the same denomination, but they do need to have very visible heads and tails sides. You're going to want a piece of paper, and you're going to want a pen. And finally, you're going to want a nice trusted copy of the I Ching Book of Oracles. Step 3 is a little bit trickier. It's got 2 separate parts, and you have to be able to do both of them simultaneously. Part 1 is internal and part 2 is external. Now, while you're doing part 2, and I'll tell you about part 2 in a second, you have to be doing part 1 internally the whole time. And part 1 is that you have to be thinking about your question. Not just about the words of your question, but about the intention of your question, the feeling of your question, the visualization of your question. You have to, as much as possible, embody the question internally, make it your whole inner reality while you're doing the technical stuff on the outside, which I'll tell you about now. You start off by taking the 3 coins into your hands and shaking them. And all the time, you're thinking about your question. Really, every aspect of your question, embodying it. Then you drop the coins onto the table and you have a look at what your result is. Tails tend to be the side with the number on it. Heads tends to be the other side with whatever representation it may have, the Queen's head, an animal, the emblem of your country, whatever it may be. Now you need to add up the value of each coin. For every tails that you get, you add 2. For every heads that you get, you add 3. So here we have 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. If you have an even number, like this 8 was, you will draw 2 lines, one next to the other, just like this. However, if you get an uneven number, like this 2 and 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7, then you will draw a single line, like this one. Now, I've shown you what you do with a number 8, 2 lines, and with a number 7, a single line. But there are 2 more numbers that you can get. Here we have 3 tails, so we get 2, 4, 6. It's an even number, but it's considered to be one of the extremes since there are 4 numbers that you can get, 6, 7, 8, or 9. 6 and 9 are considered to be on the extremes, and so they're considered to be old or new or certainly changing into whatever their opposites are. We call that a changing line. In this case, it's a 6, so an even number, so we will draw it as 2 separate line or a broken line, but we're going to put a cross in the middle to say this is a new yin line. It's so new, in fact, that it was just a yang line. This is the book of changes, of course, and so the lines are changing constantly from being double to single, from yin to yang, and back in turn to yin. Well, this yin line is a line that is very freshly yin, you could say, and is so fresh that it's still got a lot of its aspects of being yang. And so that's why we draw this little cross in there. In the same way, if you only get heads, then you'll get 3 and 3, 6 and 3, 9. 9 is an uneven number, and so a yang line, a single line. But this time we're going to draw it with a single line like this and a little circle in the center to say this is a changing line. It may be a yang line, but it's about to become a yin line, and it's already got so many of the qualities of a yin line. So we call these changing lines. You're going to continue building your hexagram line by line until you have 6 lines. It's important to remember to build your trigram from the bottom. The first line is the bottom line, and you build up going towards the top. Now each hexagram is built of 2 trigrams, 2 halves, the lower trigram and the upper trigram. Which leads us to our 4th step, which is to look up your hexagram in your I Ching book. And regardless of the edition that you will have, probably close to the beginning of the book, a table listing all of the hexagrams. And it can be a little bit intimidating trying to find your specific hexagram among all of the 60 hexagrams on that table. But there's a trick. The whole table is set up with the lower trigrams listed along the side and the upper trigrams listed along the top. So what you need to do is to divide your hexagram into 2 halves, look at what your lower trigram is and compare it to the 8 possible trigrams that are listed along the side. And then you do the same thing with the top half. And then you find the place where the columns and the rows meet, and that is your hexagram. Now, step 5 has got 2 parts as well, and the first is to look up the actual hexagram itself. You'll note the number of your hexagram and possibly its title, and you'll go to the page in your book where that hexagram is explained. Now, for the sake of recording this video, for the sake of demonstration, I didn't have any question in my mind when I was throwing the coins, and even a couple of times I changed what the coins were saying just to give you the example that I needed to illustrate. But nevertheless, if we look at the hexagram that I did come up with, it's hexagram number 64. It's the final hexagram. So we can look it up. Hexagram number 64, it's the Weiji hexagram, toward an end. And we can read what the hexagram says. It gives us a general idea of what we're talking about. And usually at this point, you'll know if the I Ching is actually responding directly to your question, or if it's completely misfired, or if you made a mistake, or if it's just, not your day for asking the I Ching. And sometimes happens as well. But then what I find specifically interesting is the changing lines. You can see that in our hexagram, we've got a changing line on the 3rd line and on the 4th line. Both of these lines are changing lines. All the other lines were created with the numbers 7 and 8. These 2 changing lines were created with the numbers 6 and 9. And if you look a little bit further in the chapter of your hexagram, you will find a list of the lines that could be changed, and you'll find the lines that you did have changed in your hexagram, and you'll look up their meanings. And this is where you'll usually get blown out of your socks, because it's exactly the information that you need. Sometimes I've even found that the general hexagram didn't really relate to my question, but the changing lines was exactly what I needed to hear. Now, I was asking at the beginning of the video if you had ever had any mind-blowing experiences with a divination of any kind, and I would be fascinated to find out about any experiences that you can share down in the comments down below, especially if it was with the I Ching, of course, but with any kind of divination system. Do share your experiences. It's always so much fun to read what's happened to other people. It can really shake us out of our ways of thinking about daily life. And so there you have it, a very simple first approach to the I Ching that you can use straight away. However, if you want an entire course on not just the history of the I Ching, but also really nice practical methodologies and exercises to make your I Ching practice the best it can possibly be, then yes, Benebell's new book is definitely the way to go. Go and check out my review. It's probably out by the time most of you are watching this. If you'd like a one-to-one consultation with me where I read your tarot, or in fact help you through an I Ching reading of your own, the links to do that are down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, there's a YouTube memberships, and there's also the Patreon. And all the members get to join me and all the other members, of course, on the Discord server, where there are over 300 different channels on different topics where you can ask each other questions and answer each other's concerns on the topics of magic. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank all of the members from all levels, and especially the Level Infinity members: David Venturini, Caitlin Kopok, Aritz Morueta Ramos, Danny Barr, Eamon, Howard Wolf, Linda Hendricks, Stephen Hunter, and Susanna Red Elves. Thank you so much for your incredibly generous support. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to the level 3 members whose names you can see scrolling up on the left over here. But yes, whatever your level, thank you very much if you are a member. Thanks to you, I can continue putting out public information on this channel for everyone to enjoy and to benefit from. I really appreciate your support. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, really helps the channel, and to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please take care of yourselves and of each other, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye-bye.